Ladies and geriatrics, how on earth are we tonight? Well, I will keep this quick because I want to move on to the main topic. But as you can see, I've sanded, filled and now spray glue covered the first of the, I don't know what you call them, inserts, the foam inserts. This one needs to be done, so we'll do that now, and I'll show you the finished result. And after much shaving and sanding and what have you, we now have something that will take a Strat-shaped guitar, and very, very snugly, which I like. Right, let's do the last bit and show you the finished thingy. Okay, so a little bit of trimming of the material, some spray glue, and spray glue, by the way, never used it before. It is fantastic. What astonishing stuff that is. So that should pop neatly, we're hoping, into here. Now, I've run out of glue, but of course the obvious thing to do now is just to give it a little bit of a brush off and to glue the two bottom ends down. And quite honestly, if they are in any way ruined, not really a big deal, because quite frankly, will I do it again? Will I do it again using the Gorilla filler? Quite frankly, I would rather butter my bottom and call myself a biscuit, because it was really more work than was ever initially required. So anyway, that's it. I'll just give the top of this a bit of a clean up. There's still some sticker residue on there, but a little bit of either naphtha or nail polish remover, a bit of acetone. I'll see that finished off quite so well. So yes, I'm happy with that. You can shake it. There's no movement there. That's fine. But the thing to use definitely would be upholsterer's foam. Right. Let's go on to today's main topic. Oh, and the guitar I was going to use is now in there. Let me whip it out and we'll have a look. Okay, there are three main things that will make your guitar play like a pig or not. And those three main things are these. Number one is string hats. Very, very easy to address on any guitar. Number two is neck. I mean, I'm saying there's three. I mean, there's actually about 200 things that will make your guitar play right or not. But these are the three basics, the three main ones. So you've got neck relief. Do we have the correct curvature or bow in the neck? And the last of the main three is fret height. Well, I'm saying fret height. What I actually mean is are your frets level or level enough? You see, if they're levelly, that's lovely. So let's have a look at each of these topics one by one. And I'll show you what you can do with just normal stuff that's around the house-ish, or stuff that won't cost you fortunes. So number one, string height. That is without doubt the most easily addressed problem that most frequently occurs. And this is usually really easily, and we will have a look at this on the bench in a second, the most easily sortable aspect of whether your guitar will play well or not. So you don't want a great big gap like this. You want it, like so it's nice and low, makes the guitar easy to play. And usually your guitar will have come equipped with the correct Allen key to raise or lower your string height, and you want the strings roughly the same height, but with just a tiny radius that matches the radius of the neck. You see, like this. So I'll look at that on the bench in a mo. Straight on to number 2. So number 2 is neck relief, and what we want to see is just, so here's your neck on a plane. This is as though you're looking at it like this, okay? And we don't want a dead straight neck. We do certainly not want a neck that does this, that bows that way. That's called a back bow. What we want is a slight curvature in the neck, and this is achieved by either tightening or loosening the truss rod. And what you want to see, and without going into any great technical details, when you hold up a straight edge against the frets, now I'll show you how to make one of these. Very, very easy. What you need is a notched straight edge. This will cost you £1 or £2, and you make your own. It's easy peasy, and I'll show you one that I've done. So you want to see, when you hold it up against the light, you just want to see a sliver of light in the centre there, because strings oscillate, you see. They make this circular motion. They don't vibrate or jump up and down or anything else weird. When you pluck them, they oscillate, and the vibration, of course, causes the string to make a sound. So we'll have a look at that on the bench. And again, you see, to adjust your truss rod, you should have with your guitar the correct Allen key to make that adjustment. If not, down the pound shop, they usually cost about £1. And so let's have a look at number 3. Number 3, fret height. So here again is your guitar neck sideways on, and you may be experiencing some buzzing or choking or that kind of thing, and your frets should be largely level, and if they're all levelly, then that's lovely. If they're not, then you may need to address just the odd fret here or there. Usually it's just the odd one that's protruding. So as you can probably see from these here, we have got, I don't know how to use the zoom on this, so my only option is to bring the camera closer to the thing that we want to see. So you can see that this one here is a little bit proud of all of the others. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously not to scale, it's just to give you a bit of an idea, really. So if I just want to get this one down, well, file, sandpaper, something like that. But you need to have a reasonably accurate way of measuring this. So let's have a look what we can do tune-wise. Okay, so here's a bunch of stuff that I'd normally use. Here's one of those neck support things that does tall and low. Don't need, actually, the majority of the time, I don't use this. Or that actually, I've got another couple of similar objects. My favourite thing to use, which I use all the time, is a pair of sponges, because they do low and they do high. And they give, so it's not a say, but that's just me, plus also pound. Right, so let's have our neck supported slightly, although it's probably not terribly important on a Stratocaster style instrument because the head never touches the deck. So where did we start? We started with string height. Okay, string height. You know if your strings are too high. You don't need you don't need a tool to tell me that. If you do not have the correct Allen key, which we have luckily here, that fits directly in there, You might be able to find a little jeweler's screwdriver, because that, again, pound shop, you'll probably find something in there that will fit perfectly in that little hexagonal hole. And if you find one that's nearly there but a little bit too big, again, you know, pack of little files, again from all the cheapo shops. They're going to cost you a couple of quid, something like that. You can file it down until it just fits that slot nicely. Allen key's better, obviously. So that's your string height. If there's a great big gap there, then it's too big. You should have a ruler knocking about. So just keep again, I hate to say it, and I'm going to keep saying it, pound shop. So this will tell you how high or low, obviously, you're moving your strings, and just move them to a comfortable size. You'll soon learn the measurement with enough mucking about. Spend a bit of time, don't be in a rush. And if you do, and do you know what? At the end of the day, if you do cock it up, just take it to your local guy. But you should get to learn your guitar and how it works, in my opinion, anyway. Right, so let's have a look. So that's it. We've looked at string height. We know that righty tighty and lefty loosey. So if you lefty loosey, it will drop the string height. If you righty tighty, it will raise the string height. And there aren't any rules with string height. It's just when you get them to the height that suits your preferences best. Okay, let us now have a look at the truss rod adjustment, and this is vital. So neck relief or neck curvature is probably one of the most important things that will make your guitar play well or otherwise. Now, I've got a thing that's called a notched straight edge, which I bought from a luthier company. They're not expensive, particularly, but if you don't have one, it doesn't matter. I didn't have one for a bass guitar, and I don't usually do basses, and so I didn't want to spend it, and bass notched edges are really expensive for some odd reason, and there's no need to go and splash out. I think the cheapest one I found was about 45 quid, which is, to my way of thinking, a joke. So I bought this ruler, which is 2 feet or 60 centimetres. And I know those two things aren't exactly the same, but bear with me. And so what I did was I just put and you can see the marks I've made on here. What I did was I just put this against the bass frets and made some marks with a marker pen, and then got my trusty little Dremel. I am assuming that you have something like this if you're into DIY fixery, and just cut out the slots so that I will be able to see whether I had that little sliver of light, and I'll show you what I mean. So this will be roughly a Fender scale, and so if I plonk this here, what I want to see is just in this, from probably about fret 5 to fret, I don't know, 15 or something like that. I just want to see a little bit of light. And I'm looking at this now, and I can tell you now that the curve of the neck is too great and it needs tightening up. Let's hope the truss rod works. The truss rod adjustment screw bolt insert is here in the head, as it is with most Fender type guitars. And this is, and again, it's righty tighty, lefty loosey. And all we're going to do is we're going to find the correct size Allen key. Guess where you can buy those from for a quid. And we're just going to bung it in the hole, which I'll show you in a second once I find the right key. And I'm going to bring it to the correct level that I want to see. So let's do that. Amazing. So actually the first Allen key that I plucked out, you can see the hole there. First Allen key I plucked out was actually one from IKEA. So I don't chuck anything away, and that fits perfectly inside there. And so here's the thing. Do your setup, and certainly your neck relief setup, with the strings on, because then you'll be able to see that you just got that. All you need is a little sliver when you put your notched edge up against here. This does not have a sliver. You could get so sorry. Yes, yeah, you can probably see that. You could get a bus in. Well, obviously a fairly small bus, but you get a bus in there. So that does want tightening up. If you have taken the strings off first, a rough rule of thumb would be that you want the neck perfectly straight with no strings on. That's as I say, that's only a rough guide. You may need to make some incremental adjustments thereafter. But as a rough guide with no strings on, perfectly flat. Because when the strings go on and it's under tension, it will make the neck bow. Okay, so I'm going to always best to do the setup with the old strings on, if that's possible. If not, it's not a big deal. Alright, I've got to tell you, I've been lucky on this occasion, because not only does the truss rod work perfectly, but also it creates the neck bow to work instantly. Not all guitars are happy with this. Sometimes if you move them and you don't see any difference in that sliver of light that you want to see in the centre of the neck there, then they like to be hung up overnight, either hung up or just left, really. So I've got that to a place where I'm totally happy. We will now have a look at fret heighty things, and I'll show you a couple of little tricks here. So I've just removed the strings. It's just there's 6 screws on the back plate. Just take them off. It makes life easier, because you might want to do a little bit of vibrato arm adjustment here. Whether you will or not is, down to you. And remember I said to you that a rough guide to, if you have no strings on the guitar, as to the curvature in the neck, which we want to be like this. Obviously not a great big curve like that, but a little curve. That if you've got no strings on, then it should be roughly flat. That is actually perfectly flat. There's no gap there at all. But when the string tension, when the new strings go on and the string tension comes into play on the neck, it will just give it that slight curvature. So we've removed the strings. What I always like to do is, and again, you don't need any special tools for this. What I use is a box spanner. It's 10 at one end, 11 at the other. You've probably got some spanners knocking about, and I'd just like to nip up. Don't go at it too crazily. Just a nice little firm nip up. Don't over tighten, and that will just eliminate any potential buzzing or rattling from these items here. There, that's absolutely fine. I'm not with vibrato systems, or as you may call them, tremolo systems, which is the wrong word. Then I'm not a big fan of butterfly string trees. I prefer rollers, because there's probably less friction and it'll stop the guitar going out of tune quite so easily. So now we're going to have a look at fret leveliness. Now what I use, of course, is what they call a fret rocker tool, and you will see that we have 4 different sides on this: short, medium, larger, medium and large. But you don't have to have one of these. You can use anything that provides the same purpose. So, for example, you could use a Stanley knife blade, nice and flat, and what you want to do is you put it over 3 frets and just give it a little wiggle and see if there's any rocking, which there isn't. If you want to go larger or smaller, you'll get an old kitchen knife, because the back of that will be totally flat. I mean, test it on something first, put it on a flat surface first to make sure it is. Or the other item that is notoriously flat is an ordinary household saw, and you can slice that into bits with your Dremel or a hacksaw or whatever you've got to hand, and you can get yourself straight edges that you can cut this into chunks and still achieve the same purpose as this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this over 3 frets. Perfect, 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 perfect. Oh wow. But Westfields are great guitars. Wow. I've got to tell you, I'm quite surprised with that. Nothing. Now I'm moving on to a slightly longer edge. No, that is, oh, come on. I can't believe, I'm honestly astonished and happy. So the frets on this are absolutely bang on. But if you did come across one that needed some sorting out, if there's just the odd one, just a little cheapo file, and then once you've filed it, then get some fine grit sandpaper. And you see, of course, what we generally use, if I got them to hand, is what they call a fret, a fret protector. Well, it's actually a fretboard protector, so that when you're sanding or filing or whatever, it doesn't hurt the fingerboard. But you don't have to use this. You can use anything that will protect the fingerboard from your filing. And of course, you just take a little bit off and then use whatever you're using as a fret rocker to see if it's level or not, and then polish it finally using something to protect your fretboard. Probably even, really even masking tape will do, because as soon as you see damage occurring on the masking tape, then you know that you've gone slightly too far. So that's that. Of course, these frets are a little bit dingy, so I'm going to whistle them up with the least popular product. Nobody apart from me seems to like this. But I like to use a bit of wire wool, you see. But what I'll also do is I'll cover pickup number 1 with a bit of masking tape or insulating tape, or just anything that will stop the shards being attracted to the magnetic poles on here, you see. So I'm going to give these a quick shine up, and then I shall condition the fretboard. Right. So again, because we're all about saving money here. Oh, I can tell you, I've just whistled up those frets, nice and shiny now, and I can tell you that this guitar has really not been played at all. Now, this product here, I bought from TK Maxx about 5 years ago, and this will outlive me, I should think. And because all you want is just a little spot on the end of the rag, and all you're going to do is wipe it across and wipe it off, and so what it does is it cleans any grime off any previous owner's DNA, and it also conditions the fretboard. It lubricates the wood, which is all good for keeping your guitar in decent nick. So you don't have to spend fortunes on dedicated guitar products. All you need to look for is the right stuff at your supermarket or local shop, and that is, do you know what? That's come up absolutely. Can you see this? And that has come up absolutely. Oh, look at the grime there. Look at the grime. So, not very much going on at the top here. So I will give this a polish using Teakut Black because the guitar is black, and I actually did find one area of contamination from that horrible Gorilla filler stuff, and as 650 Thunderbird, one of our knowledgeable contributors, said, that stuff sticks like a mongrel, which I totally agree with. Horrible stuff. Certainly wouldn't do that with the guitar case again. I'd just use upholsterer's foam, and like Michael Wood said, just use a hot wire to shape it, and that would be certainly the best, cheapest, easiest, quickest solution, because using that expanding foam was an absolute pig. So, frets level, this guitar is ready now to be cleaned up, made nice and shiny, and we've got level frets. The neck relief is perfect. We're going to bung some new strings on it, and we'll review it in a couple of 3 weeks, depending what else comes in first. Because obviously, if anything comes in for work, then that gets reviewed quickly before it's got to go back to its owner. And shall I? Well, I will do. You know, I told you about the sad loss of our guitarist friend. This was the first guitar that he used a Marlin neck, and he made the body himself from a lump of Brazilian mahogany, and he fitted, a lock stop whammy bar system. So I'm going to give this a bit of a refresh tonight, make it play nicely, and I'm going to give it to his lad in the morning. So there we go. Right, that's it, folks. Thanks ever so much for tuning in. I'll see you with something nice at the weekend. There's always something nice at the weekend. Adios, my friends. Ta-ra.